Thank you, Ms. Weldon. We will now begin with questions for our second panel. And Ms. Weldon, let me begin with you, and this relates to the provision within the Alaska Economic Development Access to Resources Act relating to the Alaska Mental Health Trust Exchange with Forest Service. You've indicated that you support the goal of the legislation, which we appreciate. You'll recall that I had sent a letter to Secretary Vilsack back in November of 2013, some time ago. And at that time, there was discussion about how we can move forward with an exchange, and it had involved various stakeholders supported by the Tongass Futures Roundtable. And in that letter, in his response back to me, he said that this was something that we need to properly and promptly consider. So this was something that is proposed back in '07. It's now 16. We've got the agreement to initiate, as I've noted. That's one step. You've indicated that you're supportive of the goal, and we need to work through some technical difficulties. What I need to know, what the people of Alaska, and specifically the people in Southeast and in Wrangell and Petersburg and Juneau want to know is whether or not we can complete this exchange in a timely manner, because Mental Health Trust is prepared to begin harvesting in areas that the communities are clearly concerned about. Mm-hmm. And Mental Health Trust has said they have no option right now, and they've kind of put some fire under moving this legislation now. If they don't see that it's going to move, they're going to move forward with the harvest. They have an obligation, a trust obligation, to the most vulnerable of our population under establishment of the Mental Health Trust. They feel like they've got their hands tied. So I understand your words, and I appreciate that, but I need some commitment from you that you will not only work with us in a collaborative manner, and I appreciate that, but work with us to get it done this year. Because otherwise, I'm afraid the Mental Health Trust will move forward, they will harvest in these areas, and the conveyance that we've been working on for so many years goes nowhere. Can you give me that commitment?
Thank you. And for your question, and yes, the commitment is clearly there, and we've really appreciated the work that we've been able to do with the executive group with the Mental Health Authority as far as getting clarity around which lands, as well as talking a little bit more about what is entailed with, for example, many of the parcels that may be more isolated and what's required for analysis. So our goal is to work very closely and to the extent that we can expedite our ability to get the land exchange done.
Well, I'm concerned when we use the words like analysis and reviews, because we know around here that stuff like that just takes a long time. And again, there's a very specific timeline that the Mental Health Trust has given us with this, and my concern is if we need to look at some practical steps that we need to address, whether it's changes in the scope of land surveying, ways to accelerate the environmental reviews, ways to prioritize the tracts that can be conveyed. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is it's going to take to get this commitment moving, that's what I need to hear from you today, from the department, that we're going to be able to resolve this, so that, again, the people that are writing and calling me from Juneau and Petersburg and Wrangell have some assurance.
Yes, and we will do our best to be as strategic and as efficient in moving through the process as possible.
Okay, well, we're going to work aggressively with you. I will comment on a statement that you just made in your statement, in your testimony, when you're talking about the administration's opposition to the Tongass roadless rule exemption. You say application of the roadless rule to national forests in Alaska has not hindered approval or appropriate access or removal of timber in accordance with the rule. You said that in your written testimony, and then you've just repeated that here. I just don't think that that is plausible. I don't think that's accurate, even with these 5 words as a qualifier. We had Alaska Electric Light and Power in Juneau several years ago. They waited months we've got a very short summer season. They needed to get equipment offloaded to reduce trees that were growing in their power lines because they needed to cross 100 yards of inventoried roadless to unload these brush cutters from a barge, and it took them months to get that. Just this year, Forest Service required helicopter installation of a power line between Petersburg and Cake because they would not allow for a road installation that would have reduced the cost of the project significantly because of the roadless. So your statement, I think, really misses the point here. The roadless rule in Alaska has devastated our state's timber industry. The rule currently prevents most activities on 9.2 million acres out of a 16.7 million acre forest, 57% of the forest. And by your most recent record of decision, it takes 2.56 million acres of commercial timber from the timber base. I find it difficult to even imagine that you can make the statement that it has no impact, that it has not hindered or delayed in any way activities. Believe you me, the people on the ground are saying that it does because they see it almost on a daily basis.